guys, my name is Vidhi Kalra and welcome back to my channel 5-Minute Economics, where I teach economic concepts in a span of just 5 minutes. The topic for today is economies and diseconomies of scale, which is a very interesting topic, and it springs up from the concept of the law of returns to scale, which is a very interesting law as well. So I have also made up a video of law of returns to scale. I'll attach its link in the comment section below. You can have a look at that very video, and then coming to what exactly is economies and diseconomies of scale, which I will be discussing thoroughly in detail in today's video. I'll be talking about internal, external, the reasons, causes, whatever basically you need to know about this topic, with some very interesting examples. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Also guys, don't forget to like this video and do subscribe to my channel 5-Minute Economics, and follow me on Instagram on my handle 5-Minute Economics. So firstly, let me explain to you what actually is economies and diseconomies of scale. Let us first go in the depth of the explanation of these two terms, and further in the latter part of the video I'll be explaining the types of economies and types of diseconomies. So firstly, coming to economies of scale, I'm sure you might have heard the word or the term. It's actually known as advantages. What are the advantages a firm or a company experiences? Whereas on the other hand, diseconomies are basically, as the word dis is there, disadvantages which a firm gets. This is like very much in simple terms. So what happens when we experience economies of scale? Basically, we tend to reduce our cost and increase our production. That's why we are moving in a very positive manner. Whereas during diseconomies of scale, there is decreasing production and our cost of production increases. So you'll see vice versa conditions in economies and diseconomies of scale. So very good example if I give you, supposingly you are a home baker and you just recently started baking. You have one very big oven in the house, and maybe just initial stage you just get one order for a cake each day. Okay, so for that one cake you have to use 45 minutes of electricity to utilize that oven. Now what happens is, supposingly through word of mouth and your cakes become famous since they are very good, so you keep getting more and more orders. Supposingly you get 5 orders or 6 orders. So now the oven is big enough to accommodate at least 5 to 6 sponges. So now you are baking in those exactly 45 minutes, you are making 5 to 6 cakes. Don't you think now this is what economies of scale is? You are utilizing your resources more efficiently, your cost of production is decreasing, whereas your inputs, your outputs basically are increasing. Don't you think like you are getting more paid more for the cakes, because everyone is going to pay separately for the cake, whereas you're just using that much electricity how much you're using initially. So this is basically economies of scale. Continuing this example only, when we say supposedly 5, 10, 12, maybe like 15 cakes a day, but everything you're doing on your own, okay, you don't have any help. Supposedly after 12 cakes a day, you just get so exhausted, but you still feel I can do, and you keep taking orders. Now what happens is, because you've taken so many multiple orders, there's no helping hand, you tend to work inefficiently. The cakes are not to the best of the quality, they are not on time. So basically when you overutilize, you are basically going to experience diseconomies of scale. At that time your word of mouth will be bad, like people will be like, your cakes are not that good, your orders will fall, your cost of production will rise. So definitely that is a very simple example which I've given you to explain this concept. We can see this on this graph also, where on the x-axis we have our output, on the y-axis we have a cost. When our curve goes down, this red line, we are experiencing economies of scale. Why? Because our cost of production is falling. After we've reached an optimum level, that is Q point, where there was 12 cakes, we can say 12 is manageable, but still we tend to take 2-3 more orders. After that we start experiencing diseconomies of scale and our curve goes upwards, wherein here we see our cost is rising. So this is basically the concept of economies and diseconomies of scale. They both are of two types: internal economies, external economies. Internal diseconomies, external diseconomies. Okay, so we'll now be going and studying each of these in depth. So coming firstly to internal economies of scale. What is internal? Which are internal to a firm. Endogenous factors are responsible for that. A firm is responsible. The effect of industry is not experienced. It is internal economies, as I told you, advantages. So internal advantages what you are experiencing. Number one is technical. Supposingly in a firm, you tend to change your machinery. Maybe you were using very much obsolete, outdated technology, and that technology you could produce less, and it was time taking. But since now you've replaced it with a new up-to-date technology, it will be easier, right? It would be like in a shorter span you can have more of bulk production. So that technical internal economy will definitely reap benefits to you. Secondly, managerial. Okay, when we expand our scale of production, we have more people. We can basically divide people into different work. If one person is doing or two person are doing all the work, it is like a burden. But when we have more people, we can, okay, you are good at PR, you can go in the PR department, you can go in the sales department, you can go in the quality check, you can go in the exporting factor. So we are doing division and specialization of labor, which definitely will be an internal economy. Next, commercial. So when we produce in bulk, we can purchase in bulk also, and when we purchase in bulk, definitely we get discounted rates. We ourselves know that when we go to buy something, if you get a pack of 1 or maybe a pack of 5, the pack of 5, if you divide it, that cost of one shampoo maybe will be much more lesser than if you are buying just one shampoo all alone, right? So obviously buying in bulk will give us certain advantages. Next, financial. So when a scale expands, when a firm expands its scale, so definitely it is easier for it to get more finances, because a big firm has more security. So firms and banks are ready to lend more rather than a very small firm. Next, lastly, risk bearing. So since there are a big they are expanding, they have the certainty, they have the cushion to bear the risk, which a smaller firm wouldn't have. So these are basically the internal economies, basically internal advantages which a firm experiences. Moving ahead to our next part, which is external economies. So as the name suggests, external, which are not done specifically by a firm but by the whole industry, and all the firms reap benefits of the advantages which a certain industry experiences. Okay, so these are basically through exogenous factors. So number one being cheaper raw material. Supposingly, as an industry expands, the raw material, maybe a new raw material is discovered, more labor is there, cheap raw materials are easily available then, which will then be benefit to all the firms in general. So because of the expansion of the whole industry, each specific small firm experiences advantages. Next, technological external economy. So what happens is, supposingly someone discovers a new technology. Okay, now that everyone starts using that technology, so everyone who is part of that industry, all firms, they reap the benefits of that technology. Next, development of skilled labor. Supposingly as the industry expands, more labor is hired. Now we have more labor availability, more labor is trained, they are skilled, they know what needs to be done. So of course then definitely each firm will also get certain advantages of that. Next, growth of ancillary industries. What are ancillary industries? Like small industries. So supposingly a big industry like automobile industry expands. Now we know if automobile industry is expanding, it is but obvious that the tire industry or the rubber industry, because we use tires in cars, right, ought to expand. So the growth of ancillary industries will also happen when the main industry expands. Lastly, better transportation and marketing facilities. When the major industry is doing good, then of course all the firms, they will reap the benefits of that advantage. So basically, if the industry expands, you are not doing anything, the firm is not doing anything, okay, but supposingly something outer, some exogenous factors, supposingly government, it changes its policies, since you are producing maybe a green environment good, and government gives benefits to all the industries which are, all the firms producing green environment good. So you haven't done anything, but it is like a general advantage which your industry has got, and then of course all the firms experiences. So I hope you are clear with internal economy and external economies of scale. Now coming to our second part, which is diseconomies of scale. So how do diseconomies of scale occur? Internal and external, just like how we did for economies, we here too have two parts, internal diseconomies and external diseconomies. So coming firstly to internal diseconomies, which are, when a firm specifically suffers that due to some changes when it expands. Number one being limits entrepreneurship. So what happens is, when we tend to expand, we need more entrepreneurs, right? More people to take quick and hasty decisions, and in that we have to incur cost also to hire such people who have so much capability to take on the spot correct decisions. So definitely it, you need to pay more for that. Secondly, managerial autonomy. So as the firm expands, we have departments. Rather than 2-3 people, we have now 20-30 people. Now we have one department, the other department, so there might happen that these departments, they don't get along well. There might be some confusion, some problems amongst them, which definitely brings about inefficiency and raises the cost of the firm, bringing in internal diseconomy. Next, overcrowding or mismanagement. So this is a very simple example, when we have less people, when I told you 1-2 people, and when we have more people, it's a good thing, right? But when we have more and more people, it is definitely not a good thing. So I had told this in my class also. When we go in our kitchen, and if our mom is already working with maybe 2-3 servants, they all are working and preparing something, and I also go and I'm like, okay, I also want to help, my mom will literally throw me out of the kitchen, because she'll be like, rather than doing anything, you will spoil our work, because there are already too many people in the kitchens, too many cooks spoil the broth. Comment in the comment sections below if you have been thrown out by your mom also when you went to help her in the kitchen, because too many cooks definitely spoil the broth. So definitely too many people in a firm also causes mismanagement, overcrowding, leading to inefficiency of firm. Next, financial diseconomy. So when we want to expand more, as a big firm, we go and take loans from banks, and we need credit. And when we do that, of course, we have to give interest for that, so that interest keeps piling up. It's a big amount. So definitely that is like a financial diseconomy. So these are basically all examples of internal diseconomies. So lastly, coming to external diseconomies, which by now I'm very sure you're clear about what exactly it is. As the name suggests, external, these are because of some exogenous factors. Diseconomies, of course, disadvantages. So because of some disadvantages of one industry, all the firms kind of suffer because of that. So number one being diseconomies of pollution. When a factory grows, factories are nearby, so definitely they cause a lot of pollution. So now they have to pay extra for that pollution, what they have caused, increasing their costs. In fact, all the people living by close to the factory also can revolt, that because of you, our health is deteriorating, there's so much of air pollution, so much of water pollution, so it's like a disadvantage. Secondly, limited natural resources. So these factories, these firms, they have to use certain raw materials which are of course rare in nature, or scarce in nature. They are scarce, basically, gold, then we have coal, we have so many other things which are scarce. And definitely when we use these natural resources, we are putting an additional pressure on them, and definitely causing a disadvantage because resources are limited. And lastly, infrastructural diseconomies. If we supposedly tend to hire more people close to the factory, that road which is leading to the factory, it will be more congested, more people are coming, more cars on that road. So because of this hiring, because of more people, because of expansion, we can have shortages. So this is basically some infrastructural diseconomy, which is an external diseconomy. So I hope you're clear with economies and diseconomies of scale. In case of any doubts, you can always ask me in the comment section below. Thank you so much guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video pretty soon.